Hi, I'm Ginny Robertson, founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine and founder of the On Purpose Woman global community. I'm here with Emily Shull for a Writer in the Spotlight interview where I chat with the contributing writers for the current issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Emily, thanks for being here with me.
Thanks so much for having me, Ginny.
Well, let's start out by telling our viewers a bit about you.
Sure. So my name is Emily Shull, and I am founder of Me, Myself, and Money. And I describe myself as a holistic money coach. And I think that does a pretty good job at describing what I do, but let me tell you a little bit more about that. So I exist in this kind of no man's land between mental health professionals and financial professionals. So if you have a personal issue that you're having, you want to understand yourself better and see how that relates to maybe things that happened to you in the past, then you might go to a therapist for that. And if you want some help with your money, either you want to learn how to invest, help with retirement, or help, paying down some debt, then you would go to maybe a financial advisor or a financial coach. But if you want help understanding how you think about money or understanding yourself as it relates to money, then that's where I come in. And it's kind of a specialized area because therapists, they usually don't talk much about money. Many of them also have their own issues around money that they'll readily say. And then financial professionals, they're really good at talking about the numbers aspect of it, but money, whether we realize it or not, is just so emotional and it ties into so many aspects of ourselves in our lives. It has so much to do with how we grew up, how we came to think about ourselves. So I fill that role in between to help you understand your relationship with money and yourself and how that is all integrated.
I love how you describe it. I think it's a perfect definition. So thank you for that. And I was thinking of something as you were talking, because the article that you wrote is called, "Is Authenticity a Virtue or a Crutch?" And I've been kind of thinking, when I read it, when it came in, and then I've read it a couple of times since then, thinking that what this really isn't, she's not really writing about what she does, but I was just thinking just now that, yeah, that's a piece of it. What you wrote about, that whole mindset, that whole underlying stuff, right? Something that you're going to talk about in a minute that was kind of ruling you and some of your decisions is probably exactly what you talk with your clients, right?
Yes. So this comes out so often when I work with clients, and I've experienced this, of course, firsthand. I write about in the article how I went through this when I started coaching for the first time. I realized I needed some experience marketing. I needed to know how to do that because I hadn't run a business before. And so when I went through this program, I realized I was hiding behind my belief that I was authentic, that somehow I was different or that my business was different. And really what I was doing was I didn't want to do anything uncomfortable that this program was asking me to do. That's how we grow and learn and, achieve things that we haven't done before. And I see this with my clients as well. And it all comes down to really just understanding ourselves and our patterns and why we do the things that we do. So that's certainly related to how I work with my clients as well. And I particularly see this a lot in business people that I work with. So I work with, people who work for other corporations or they work for themselves, a whole range of people. But I particularly notice when I work with solopreneurs that a lot is asked of us as business owners and especially solopreneurs. Like every stage of your business, you're just learning something new and coming up against old patterns and something about yourself. And so we can either try to get around that some other way because it's uncomfortable, or we can take that opportunity and get really curious about, why am I having so much resistance here? What's really behind that? And if we're able to just take a step back, stay curious and ask ourselves those questions, it can open up not only growth for our business, but growth for ourselves as well.
I've heard it said that entrepreneurship is the greatest personal growth course you could ever take.
Oh, that is so well said.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship and parenthood, I think, are
Parenthood, of course.
the
Yes.
best
Yes.
ones. Yeah.
I really resonated with your article, and I was laughing to myself when I read it because, you just mentioned this idea of, well, I'm not really like that. That won't work for me. And I remember, paying people sometimes big bucks for their advice, for their coaching, for their program, if you will, and then deciding somewhere along the way that, well, they don't really understand my business. They don't really understand me. I'm different. I'm spiritual. I'm not all about the money. And I was just laughing because, it's so interesting because that all that was, I can't do it that way. It's just, I don't know how. I don't think I want to. It's uncomfortable. I can't ask people to. I remember in your article, you mentioned that you thought you were bothering people by sending them emails about this launch you were doing for this webinar, and so we get into that mindset that says, well, nobody wants to hear it, so I better not do it. And it all comes down to what? What's the bottom line for all that for you?
Yeah, for me, it was, not wanting to bother people was this core emotional wound that I had been carrying around with me that I actually thought I had dealt with. Like I went to therapy, I dealt with this, but here it came cropping up again in the middle of this, marketing program that I was trying to do. So it is, again, it's like through entrepreneurship or through looking at our relationship with money or just questioning our values in general, whether it's authenticity or something else. It really helps us to understand ourselves better, and just, peel back those layers of the onion and get to really what's underneath it. And once you're able to get to that root, then, you're able to take that next step. You're able to do things that weren't possible before.
Mhm.
So I think everything comes down to just understanding yourself better. And I do want to also say that I think it is important to be true to ourselves. I think it is important to be authentic and to be, honor our intuition. But just always have this questioning mind, always have a bit of curiosity of like, okay, I'm feeling something uncomfortable. So let me just take a look at that and see what could be there, because it, it just opens yourself up to a growth experience, which is just, I think, is like the best feeling in the world.
Not when you're in it, but when you're on the other side of it, it feels really
Yes.
good.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's very uncomfortable going
It
through,
can
which
be
is
very
why we
uncomfortable
don't
going
want to
through
look at it in the first place, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I found myself, my inspiration to writing this article was actually, so I was like hopping from program to program, trying to find something that was more comfortable for me. And I finally landed in a particular group full of lovely people. But I took a look around and I realized like no one was really doing much with their business. And they were all kind of like me at the time, like kind of really timid and not wanting to, bump up against that comfort zone. And so it was then that I realized like, oh, okay, I'm doing this too. It's obviously not working for any of us. So there's something else that we need to do to get out of this, and to actually, so that we're able to have a business that serves the people that we want to serve, because that's why we got into it to begin with.
Well, I like that you made the distinction with there are times that something is not going to resonate and we're going to say no to it. But that's when we can truly trust our gut and our intuition and know that. And it's always good, I think, to ask that question, am I afraid of what's going on with me here? Does it have a deeper meaning, or is it just that, nah, it's a no? I think the older I get and the more in tune I am with myself, sometimes there's what I like to call a hell no, just like, oh, hell no, that's not for me at all.
Yeah.
And then when there's that questioning, that's when I have to really sit with it and go deeper. And so I love that that's how you came to this, because, like you say in the article, it feels very virtuous to be authentic, right? That it's a virtue. Authenticity is a virtue until it isn't, until you're using it as a crutch, like in your case, to kind of keep you safe from doing the things that you really needed to do. So what was on the other side of that? Like when you came to that realization, were you able to do some things differently?
Absolutely. Once I was able to, and it didn't happen right away, it happened a couple months later, but once I was able to really understand, like, oh my gosh, this, like, not being able to send these emails to promote my program, wow, that was actually related to me feeling, like a bother to my parents when I was young.
Oh, yeah.
That connection and realization, it allowed me to really more fully heal that wound, first of all, and through that I was able to be much more open about my business. I was able to be much more in a still discerning way. I don't do everything because I choose what works best for me, but yeah, I'm so much more able to promote my business, to talk openly about it, and not feel like I'm bothering someone on the other side of the screen. Yeah, everything opens up once you're able to understand the connection, and then most importantly, start to heal that. Because if that doesn't heal, then it affects other areas as well. It's just that in entrepreneurship, we come face to face with all of these obstacles, in quick succession often. And so it
Mhm.
makes us face them whether we want to or not.
Yeah. And it's in my experience that that which is not healed will come back, and it will come back bigger and bolder. And the old idea of, you get a little tap on the shoulder, then you get, and next thing you know, you're getting the cinder block on the head, right? Of like, wake up here, what's going on? So, and I love what you said about, it affecting other areas of our lives, because once you could have gone for a long time not realizing that that piece wasn't healed, but yet doing behaviors based on it, right? So it could have affected could have affected all kinds of things, not just business. So that's why it's so important to start to notice these things and really be
Yeah.
just curious about it. What might
Yeah,
this be?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and the people that I work with, again, like this at this moment, it affected me in my marketing, but at another time, it affected me in the types of jobs that I took. I worked for nonprofits most of my life until I started my own business. And, I could have been earning more money. There was something that felt safer to me about that. And I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah. And money, anytime you bring money into it, like, because this is your work, you add a whole nother layer to everything. So
Yes.
not only were you asking people to read your emails, you were wanting people to show up for something, and you were wanting people to hire you to coach them, right? So you were on this path. You had this funnel kind of thing you were trying to do, right?
Mhm.
But it ultimately ended up with people giving you money, which is probably
Yeah.
why it felt so kind of sleazy in the first place, right?
Yeah, but that's really interesting, Ginny, because for me in that particular moment, it didn't, but for another
Hmm.
person, it might have.
Okay.
There are
Yeah.
so many layers to this money
Yeah.
work. And you never know where it shows up until you feel that resistance. That is just the telltale sign. Anytime you feel like, oh, I want to do this, but I can't, there's something that's holding me back. That's a sign that, I have this block here. I need to understand what that is, and I need to heal that and clear that before I can move forward. And it's different for every person. It's fascinating, and it's unique as a fingerprint for all of us. And we don't know it until we come up against it.
Exactly. And that's why it's really important to try to get some support with that, some help with that.
Yeah, there's a lot that we can do on our own to
Yeah.
kind of to peel back these layers, but in my personal experience, it's so much easier when you're working with another person, because none of us can see, all of the sides of ourselves. We just need someone else to hold that mirror up to us.
What else do you want to say about that? Anything else you want to say about the article and your conclusions and all of this?
Just I always like to remind people that, or suggest or offer that they just be very gentle with themselves, like regardless of wherever they are in life, or with their business, or in their personal life, or with their money. We have a lifetime to explore these things. And sometimes we know we have an issue, we know there's something blocking us, but it might not be the right time for us to understand what that is, or for us to do the work in that moment. And that's okay. So just be gentle with yourself and know that in time, when it's right for you, you can do this work and grow from there.
Thank you. Perfect advice. Well, how can our viewers find out more about your work, Emily?
Yeah, they can reach me on my website. It's me, myself, and money.com.
And I also put in the link of I put the link in the text that you had in your article. If people want to sign up for your newsletter, that's also in the text. I'll add the website after this, but go sign up for Emily's newsletter and get some of this information in your inbox. Some of Emily's insights and wisdom that can help you in all areas of your life, but particularly in your relationship with money. And check out her work. She's brilliant.
Oh,
So Emily, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you for writing for the magazine and for sharing your wisdom with our readers and now with our viewers. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Ginny.